Christian propaganda is nothing new. Mainstream films like God's Not Dead, The Breakthrough, God's Not Dead 5, Never Stop, Never Dying, and Superman Returns. Basically, these films are designed to appeal to evangelical Christians. The filmmakers go in with the knowledge that their audience will be believers in Jesus, and so that's the message of the film. You're already right. Just believe in Jesus a little harder. The bad guys in the films are generally people who don't believe in God enough, like atheists, or, God forbid, Muslims. But within the already very niche space of Christian propaganda films, witnesses exist within an even nichier niche. I don't even know if I'm saying that word right. I've only ever seen it in writing. See, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they are the only true Christians on earth today. And every other Christian denomination falls into the category of Christendom, which they almost use as a slur. And today, I want to talk about one of the propaganda films that had the most impact on me and my family and a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that I know that still reference this movie that, frankly, I don't remember any of the details about, but I remember how often it came up in conversation. So the reason why this was a significant drama, that's what they call them. They typically don't call them movies, Watchtower, they call them dramas. What I remember is that this is something that really hits home the fact that if you decide to leave Jehovah's Witnesses, you might think you're good for a while, but justice is coming for you. Dawn of justice is coming for you, and you will be destroyed. If you lose patience that Armageddon is coming soon, it's going to come right when you get comfortable. So never get too comfortable. And if you think that it's delaying, that means that it's not delaying and that it's really close. So that's what I remember. So I haven't watched this in, over 10 years. So I'm intentionally trying to not look up information about it because I want to react to it in real time. So here's what I remember. I remember this being like first century Christians who are like aware that the destruction of Jerusalem is coming. And, because Jesus prophesied about that kind of, and so they're waiting for the destruction to happen. What stuck with me and why this was constantly referenced was some people are going to flee. They start out as good Christians who flee and heed Jesus' words, right? But eventually they're like, you know what? We've waited a long time and destruction hasn't come yet. Armageddon hasn't come yet. So maybe Jesus was wrong. Maybe the governing body was wrong. And so some people, there's two couples, I think, two families, and one of the couples loses faith and goes back to Jerusalem, and then when they go back, then the destruction happens, because like a thief in the night, when you least expect it, that's when it's going to hit you. So when you start to think that it's running late, and you're starting to think, oh, you know what, I think the witnesses are wrong about impending Armageddon because they've been saying it for 150 years, and apocalyptic groups have been saying it since the beginning of time when humans existed anyway. Don't listen to those thoughts in your head. So that's the message that I remember taking from this, and it really stuck with me. This came out in 2012. It's been about a decade now, and I still remember the message of it. And it was one of those things that kept me in, because I was like, what, is it one of those things that as soon as I leave, then the end of the world comes? And no, unfortunately, it didn't end. So, without further ado, let's take a proper gander at some propaganda. I just want to let that pun settle in for a second. And I accept checks, I accept direct payments. However much money you think that pun was worth, feel free. We fade in on We Jerusalem. We haven't faded in yet. There, okay. A little behind the scenes detail for you. I had to redo the beginning of this, like the first 1 minute of this thing, a couple of times because my camera was dumb. So here's what I'll say: that is not a bad looking set, and that was not a bad looking CGI Jerusalem. So good job. Free labor. Non-unionized labor of volunteers who think that they're doing what they're doing to save the world is pretty good, it turns out. And this is walk by faith, not by sight, because you might see stuff that makes you think that maybe you should re-examine your faith and think critically about it and maybe do research and get differing viewpoints and coming to a more informed conclusion. But that would be like a quitter's way out. You should really just double down and have faith. And I do feel like we should acknowledge that kid he's kind of a baller. He threw that rock and it went through the grate. It was impressive, and I'm not mad at it. This kid rules. Okay, I don't know what this game is that they're playing. They see a donkey, and this donkey reminds us that we are in ancient times. Okay, now this is important, actually. So we're seeing here a representation of a first century Christian meeting, because witnesses feel that they are a restoration of true worship, true Christianity, and true worship in general. So when they do dramas about Israelite times, and don't miss the coolest handshake of all time, one of these, when they do ancient Israel, you'll see the worship is exactly the same. It's people sitting around and listening to a big scroll. And that scene was them kind of reimagining a modern day Jehovah's Witness meeting in the first century. And what this does is it subtly or not so subtly reinforces to witnesses what you're doing in your regular worship, this is what they did. It's basically functionally the same. You are part of this chain of true worship that started with the Israelites, continued with first century Christianity. And there's a long gap we don't really talk about because it's confusing. And then, Charles Taze Russell and the early Bible students restored true worship, true Christianity. So you're gonna get a lot of that. You're gonna get a lot of unearned or assumed parallels. When you assume that you have the one true religion, it's easy to just assume that people in the first century did everything the same as you.
But more than 3 decades earlier, Jesus foretold events
30
that would mark
years
great changes in the
PC
world
post-Christ. People are complaining about PC culture these days, but we've been in post-Christ culture for thousands of years now.
Your taxes are due, and this will cover it.
The taxes are due.
You have no right.
Oh, man. I don't know if he counted that money. Even if he was going to haphazardly take more money than he needed, you'd think he would want to count out to make sure he got more money.
Little did we realize how severely the quality of our faith would be tested.
Oh, their faith is going to be tested.
The fulfillment of those prophecies.
I'm getting tested. Times are tough on this bodega. 2 months ago, somebody bought Ortega's. Our neighbors started picking up and packing up, and ever since the rent went up, it's getting mad expensive, but we live just enough in the Heights. And there may be some in the Heights references throughout this if I get bored. That guy is in a few of these dramas. I'm pretty sure he's the dad in one of the modern day dramas that's about, modern families and how it's hard to have family worship because sometimes the kids, they don't want to stick around and family worship. Look at that. I said it, and there it appeared. So this is another instance of them, kind of assuming that first century Christians also had a family worship program similar to the modern Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. Oh man, close your eyes, kids. They're throwing foam blocks and shooting arrows the way they're definitely really shot.
There was hardly time to think.
It's interesting that for the flashback they're like going with grainy footage, kind of like the film cliche of like showing film footage of an old war or something. Oh my god. Paul Greengrass edited this scene. But yeah, obviously, like, there wouldn't have been a documentary. Alright. So these Romans, you know, what good did they ever do? So this is like a first century elders meeting. This is
That was an elders meeting I would not soon
Oh
forget.
shit. They called it an elders meeting.
Flee.
That's pretty crazy. I thought they were going to be more subtle about it. I didn't think they would literally call it an elders meeting. But this is how, like, elders are trained, and
All of the brothers were at the meeting.
all the brothers were at the meeting. Okay, so
How are we gonna get out?
they're talking like Jehovah's Witnesses talk. They called it an elders meeting. So this is how, like, elders are indoctrinated to think about their position in the congregation, because they're like, we're doing exactly what the first century Christians did. Elders, they meet in a kind of a private room and they sit around a table and they talk about what's going on with the Christian community. And obviously, like, elders as a term exists in the scriptures to a certain degree, but it's just interesting that all of the little colloquial terms
Anything else?
they insert into the past to make it seem more legitimate. This guy's shaking his
I don't
head.
know, Shebuel. Everything that we've worked for. What if they're wrong?
Don't think about it, Nahum.
Nahum.
I'm
Missed
trying not
another
to.
guy's name, I'll be honest. So Beardy is Nahum. No,
To just walk away
Cleanface is Nahum.
from all of this?
I know, it's not easy. But it's the right thing to do.
Be willing to walk away from all this. So this is important. This is something that, you know, witnesses expect to happen. They expect you to, like, Armageddon is going to happen and you're going to have to flee. You'll get direction from the faithful and discreet slave that might seem crazy from a human standpoint, but you'll have to do it.
Yeah, I remember. You cut my hair real short so you could be stronger.
Oh, our buddies, they're still kids at heart. They remember their childhood times. And I'm sure they're going to remain friends through the entire thing. Oh, boy. So Beardy is, he's a sad boy. He's looking at the rain. And, you know,
I know we have to leave.
we have to leave.
But how? The city's surrounded.
You know, if you're a mature Christian, if you're an elder, you might have a nagging wife who makes things harder. You know, she might try and get you to stay.
Jehovah will open the way.
Jehovah will open the way.
Somehow.
So it'll all just make sense if you rely on Jehovah. Now, of course, Jehovah as a name was not used in the first century. It doesn't appear in the New Testament.
Brother's here.
Unless you're reading the New World Translation, which even Watchtower admits adds the divine name in places where they just assume it would be or think it should be, and that changes a lot of the meaning of a lot of the texts where the divinity being described is to Jesus. So in this drama that is about Christians, you are not going to hear a lot about Jesus.
That Jehovah has a better view of
Yeah.
the situation than we do.
Jehovah has a better view of the situation than we do. So these are like all platitudes that witnesses use. But when you insert it into the mouths of babes, no. Oh, his wife was kind of a babe. No, of, you know, these first century characters, it adds a legitimacy to it. Stop yelling. I'm trying to talk over you and not pay attention and then act, you know, confused when I don't follow the action. Oh, look at this guy. Tower of Antonia, Jewish rebel headquarters. Wow, we have Chirons on the screen.
One good reason why they would do such a thing.
Strategically,
They
it
have a
makes no
real
sense, but they are legal.
archetype for villains, which I like. They're all kind of long-haired
The reports are
creeps.
the same. In every quarter of Jerusalem, the 12th Legion is marching toward the sea.
That face. Oh boy. This hair is so hot for this weather. Why would I do this? And there's fire in the house. Oh God. Oh man, what's he gonna do with this sword?
God has blinded them.
Does that guy look a little like Fred Armisen?
Madness. Divine madness.
Not that guy.
It is deliverance. God has delivered the holy temple from the enemy's
Delivered
hands.
the holy temple. Kind of a Dr. Evil vibe.
They must feel the wrath of God upon their backs.
God upon your backs.
Pursue them! Strike them down! As God struck the Egyptians in the Red Sea, overtake them and kill them!
Please are pleased. They're
Pursue
gone.
them!
No! Punish them! They must never again harass the people of God! Go!
I'm a Canadian and I've never yelled in my life until right now. Listen, fella. That's just not gonna work for me, eh?
Hold on here for just a minute.
Now, Gideon, make sure there's plenty of these cheaper wines
Cheaper
available
wines?
today. There's going to be a lot of
Damn.
celebration.
What are you doing? Why aren't you ready
We
to
skipped
leave?
over it, but
Just
there's
need
a
a
scene
little more
earlier where
time.
he
We'll be
shaves
along.
and
We'll
has
catch up with
like
you out on the
shaving
road.
cuts,
This
and
is
I
our
don't know
opportunity
why
to
exactly.
escape.
I agree completely. It's the fulfillment of the sign, but it happens so quickly. I have to get things organized before we leave. In fact, you should be
Nahum.
helping me, partner.
Nahum, listen to
Whack in the
yourself.
face.
This is the destruction of Jerusalem we're talking about.
Hey, for your information, we've begun preparations.
Why does
for
everyone
departure.
sound a little
Don't worry
bit
about us.
Kermity? A
Now,
little
Gideon,
bit Kermit
I
the
expect we'll be
Froggy.
gone for maybe a week or two.
Now listen here, we're gonna have to flee Jerusalem.
You ready?
Get their wine deliveries. We've got to go over and get with.
He's opening the shop.
Oh, okay. So Nahum is opening a shop. He's opening a business, starting his own business when we're so close to the destruction of this system of things. I mean, Jerusalem. Why would you start your own business and focus on your career when you could be serving the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society? I mean, God.
All of you follow me. We go out the gate. We turn north to meet the main group on the west side.
The one guy's like head dealio is a little low.
Ethan!
Hey, what's up there, buddy?
Is that all you're bringing?
I don't need much.
Oh.
These are the important things.
So this guy's living a simple life. All he's got is his scrolls. Do you think one of them is like the first century equivalent
just the four of us
to
for
a
now?
John Grisham novel?
Others
He's
are
obviously, he has his spiritual texts.
Then let's go.
Because obviously 30 years after Jesus' death, widely circulating were copies of the gospel in full. That makes a lot of sense. Don't do research into that.
Stay close.
I'm not seeing a lot of hustle from these guys, I gotta be honest. They're trotting.
Briar!
Rachel! Zeph!
Uncle Briar, are you coming with us? Oh, Briar, I'm so glad we found you.
Rachel, have you heard the news?
Jeez.
We heard that the Roman armies have left.
And we're going after them. They'll pay for attacking God's holy city.
Pariah, we have some news too. We're leaving.
Leaving.
A what? Huh?
Why? Where are you going?
You know what we believe. Jesus said that when Jerusalem was surrounded
This is
by
pretty
armies,
strange.
that
So
is the
he's
signal
saying,
that
"Are you
the
crazy? That's a
tribulation is
Gentile
coming."
The
city."
Romans are running away. This is a great
But-
day. They have deliverance.
So sorry, I'm thinking out loud
Jerusalem that
for the
Jehovah
first time in this
delivered today.
commentary.
It's his people.
And
His people.
so Amariah, or old what's his name, was complaining that this is a Gentile city that they're planning to go to, Pella. And that's kind of interesting because if I'm remembering correctly, by Watchtower's timeline, 30 years after
The temple.
this, after the death of Christ, the Christian congregation would have been well established. They're obviously, as we see, they're already having elders meetings, which meant they would have already had the letter They would have had the conversations about letting Gentiles in. I don't know. I might cut all this out.
We're going to Pella, in the mountains to the north.
Are you crazy?
Okay.
That's a Gentile city.
The music is on point. This is something that makes me a little sad, is that there's a lot of creative people that work in the organization, or, you know, not even that work, you know, they just exist in the organization. And there's been some research into the fact that the cults tend to attract creative thinkers because generally people who think logically, and this is an indictment of me, you know, might be able to look at all this and think it's crazy. But I think if you have a more creative brain, you can find creative workarounds to maintain your indoctrination, maybe. I'm making all this up. I'm not an expert. I'm just watching a really crappy movie. All right. So our family is heading out. We're getting out of Dodge. I want to live in a city that is guarded by humongous doors. That's a real dream of mine. Anytime you're like playing a fantasy game and you get to walk up to the big doors and push them open, so satisfying. Ah, you see. There's the donkey. This is good filmmaking. They established the donkey earlier, and they're now paying it off by having the donkey carry all the stuff. Oh, the nagging wife. Okay, so Nahum and his wife, they're not just bringing a John Grisham and a copy of the book of Luke. They're bringing a whole donkey full of stuff, a whole ass load.
Stop worrying.
Was that just an enormous key?
I can't believe you left Gideon in
Gideon!
charge. He's not even a brother.
Can't believe you left Gideon.
The brothers have all left.
And he's not even a brother. Oh no, he trusted an unbeliever, an
He's
outsider.
worked for us for years, and he knows the business.
So there's also,
Where do you think you're going?
so he left an unbeliever in charge of his business that he started. So that's kind of an interesting thing.
Are you feeding and clothing his family?
They seem to be implying that if you are a Jehovah's Witness and you own a business, that you should employ witnesses primarily, and that you should be wary of employing non-witnesses.
I'm a God-fearing man.
You know, it's there.
Please just
It's
let
just
us
it's a little
At the time we need men most,
tidbit,
you want to
little
leave.
preachy tid.
Wait, maybe he's a Christian.
Oh no.
Fight for the nation. I'll deal with him.
Please, let us pass.
What's going on with
Let me give you
the
something.
decision of who wears beards and who doesn't in this documentary?
It's the best in Jerusalem.
Bribery? You disgust me, sir.
Nobody knows how to yell, and I guess that's
Let
good.
them go.
I guess it's
Christians
good.
have no
These
use.
people probably
Thank you.
do not have
Bless
severe
you, sir.
anger issues.
Take the
Like,
donkey.
What?
But sir.
darn you!
But sir.
The
But
beast
sir!
stays.
The beast.
And if you ever come back, not even your savior will be able to help
Wow.
you. I promise you that.
They're real concerned about that one donkey. I mean, we've only seen one donkey in this entire thing, to be fair. So this is the town donkey. And, old Nahum trying to take all the ass for himself. Is it lazy to make donkey ass jokes? No, it's smart and brave. And that's why I'm doing it. So,
I didn't think it would be
I
like
don't know
this.
how they know how to get where they're
I
going.
mean, look at us.
And I'm sure there's
Out in
an
the
actual
wilderness.
answer for this. We don't see them
Completely
using
defenseless.
maps. They don't have
Jehovah has never
compass.
failed us.
They
He
don't.
got us out of
There's no
Jerusalem.
stars
He'll care
in
for
this
us now.
scene. So have they just like heard
If
where this
only I
place
had your
is?
faith.
I don't know.
You do have faith. You proved that when you left your old life behind.
You proved you had faith when you left your old life
I
behind.
never thought I'd live to actually see it.
But you didn't allow that to cloud your
But I
judgment.
never thought I'd live to actually
You've done the
see
right
it.
thing.
So, don't forget everything you left behind. to join this group.
How long do you think
Or,
we should wait
if you were
for Nahum
raised in
and
it,
Abatal?
everything that you have, like, maybe forsaken.
They must have left by now.
Dreams you may have not pursued.
If they don't show up by dawn,
But
we'll
you're
go
going to
back
live
and
to
look for
see it.
them.
You're living
I
and
can't
seeing
figure
it
out
right
what's
now.
taking them so
We're in the
long.
last days, don't you know?
They had a donkey to carry all their stuff for
This
them.
donkey is getting
I
so
wonder
many
if that
shout-outs,
was
so much
wise.
screen time.
The man on
He's
the
kind of the
housetop
MVP.
should
I
never
still
come
don't know
down
Beardy's
to take the
name.
goods out of his
I refuse
house.
to learn it, but I think we should name the donkey. I think we should name him. And let's think about this.
Ethan, you look tired. Why don't you get some rest and I'll keep watch for a while?
I mean, we got
Maybe I'll
obviously
do that.
we'd call him Donkey. Donk, new Donk. Ooh. So we have new Donk City in Mario Odyssey. Maybe he's old Donk. It seems too hard to say. We're gonna find a better name for the donkey. He had one job to do. These guys are lost on a dark soundstage. What are they gonna do?
Ethan! Ethan, wake up! Somebody's coming.
Hold on. Shebule? Shebule, is that you?
Shebule!
Nahum?
Shabby!
Nahum! Oh!
It's Shabby
I
Boy.
am so glad to see you.
What
Sheb the
happened?
pleb.
The gate. They had swords.
This is not important at all.
nothing
But
we
from
can
a
do.
storytelling
Robbed.
perspective, it's
They stole
weird to me
everything we
that
own.
we would like
Oh, I'm
consciously
so sorry.
see the fire
terrible.
die
What
out,
happened?
but then they would run into each other
We
after
weren't given enough
there
time
was
to
no
think
fire,
this
and it
through.
would be like impossible to see them.
Now look what's happened.
So I don't
Nahum,
know what we're going for.
I'm really sorry about what happened to you.
What a kindly old
But
elder.
We've
He's
all
just
left
like
things behind.
the nice old elders
Jesus
we have
told
in the
us to flee the
congregations.
city, and that's exactly what we've done.
Maybe so, but I still think we should have waited until things settled down a little.
Listen,
Thinks we
late.
should have waited until
tomorrow's
things settle
another long
down.
day.
Is
Let's
the
get some
kind of
rest.
attitude you shouldn't have if you are a good J-Dub. Now, Nahum, what was he looking back there for?
Shebule.
Chevy.
Hey, something about this doesn't add up.
What do you mean?
Think about it. Jerusalem's to fall by the sword after we leave, right?
Right.
And Jesus said it would be like when Lot left Sodom. Fire came down from heaven suddenly, that very day, right?
Yeah? Okay, so what are you thinking?
The Roman army left Jerusalem. If they're retreating, they can't destroy the city.
Ah,
Unless. It's not really a retreat.
unless.
It's a trick.
Unless?
They're trying to draw
Unless.
the Jewish fighters out of the city and into a trap. Why else would they just leave? They're waiting in ambush, ready to pounce.
So this is,
Maybe that's why Jesus told us to leave immediately.
this is interesting.
Ethan, what do you think?
I think we've done just what Jesus commanded us to do. Isn't that the important thing, Nahum?
Okay, so this whole exchange, Chevy Boy's got his theories, Nahum's got his theories, but old Ethan, senior official of this whole operation,
I
is like,
sympathized with
hey,
Nahum.
enough with all this theorizing about whether or not this stuff is
Understand at the
true.
time.
Stop talking about it, stop thinking about it. Just
And when word spread
follow
about
the
defeat of
direction.
Roman army at the hands of the Jewish
that is
rebels
very
at
much
Jehovah,
the... Whoa.
It only raised more questions.
Oh my god!
But we had
He's
made our decision.
crying out in pain at how bad the background was.
So we began a new life in Pella.
Welcome, brothers
Pella
and sisters
did
from
not
Jerusalem.
look discernibly different from Jerusalem.
Long, hard journey, but we're so happy to be here.
It looked, arguably like exactly the same set. I mean, listen, I know these guys worked hard. But we can poke a little fun at the cult propaganda, can't we? How else are we going to take a proper gander at the propaganda.
Must be so hard.
Admittedly, life was simpler. And harder than it was in Jerusalem.
Life was simpler and harder. And that might... Okay, that's on Nahum. It just seemed like he purposefully dropped a
We
rock
had
on
some
his
adjustments to make.
Good. The wives, they're just staying home. The wives, all we've seen them do is have babies, be pregnant with babies, hold some bread, and nag.
That would truly challenge our faith.
Look at these grape stomping sons of guns. Anyway, so the point about it being, okay, 6 months later, so life is harder. Nahum! You're a klutz. Stop interrupting me while I'm breaking down your ideology. Okay, so the point that they're trying to get to with this is, yes, when you simplify your life and join Jehovah's Witnesses, your life is going to be harder because you might leave behind a high-paying job or a career. But that just means everything is going according to plan. If you're suffering, that is good. That means you're doing the right thing. You're not being exploited for free labor. It just means that you're serving God even harder. Oh boy, just a couple of hugging buds. This little kid. That's not how you play Zelda's Lullaby.
That boy has such a gift for music.
Oh boy, I feel like I know where this is going. The boy has gift for music. I wonder if he'll be encouraged
Do you have anyone
to
here
pursue
that can teach you?
his dream of being a musician.
It would be a sin to waste that talent.
Oh man, it would be a sin to waste his talent.
All the best teachers are in
Is what Satan wants you to think. What he should do is wait until the new world, which these first century Christians will never see, because Armageddon isn't going to come in their lifetime, and in fact, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, apostasy is going to set in, like, immediately, and they're probably all going to be killed for being Christians. So it's a good thing that that kid does not pursue his dream of music. Although maybe he'll get to play it in heaven. If he's one of the anointed, if he's resurrected, he'll get to play his flute then.
What more can I do?
I think I have that long sleeve green shirt that Nahum's wearing.
We're out of money. I'm sick and tired of this place. I can't stay here, Nahum.
I know.
This isn't the point, but this is the more attractive couple of the two,
living with Gentiles.
I think.
Even the brothers.
I think you got some lookers here.
I don't trust them.
Oh, she doesn't
I
trust
understand.
the brothers.
I'm tired of not being in our own home.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
make a decent living in this good-for-nothing place. Or get back to my
You know,
business in
imagine if you
Jerusalem.
were a missionary in Jehovah's Witnesses and you went to an assignment and you weren't appreciative of it. Like Nahum and his nagging wife who only complains and tries to negatively influence children to pursue their dreams. Oh, and it's raining, so you know he's sad. Who are all these guys?
Okay. We can get started.
Oh, are they having their meeting?
Look, a brother from the north has sent a supply of grain as a gift to our congregation.
Oh my. Jehovah's loving
Divided
organization.
it up proportionally according to the size of each family.
This is like during COVID when Watchtower
Provided for us in our
used a
congregation.
government program to send its members and only its members food and didn't offer it to, you know, people outside the community who might have needed it more. So in addition to like all of the negative reinforcement of like, don't be like Nahum and his wife, who weren't appreciative and who always complained and who could never see the bright side of why having a terrible job that sucks and isn't rewarding away from home is good actually. Don't be like those guys. You also have this like positive reinforcement of, isn't the brotherhood amazing? You get some grain sometimes.
This isn't gonna last.
Oh, Nahum's not appreciative of the provisions. Ethan is not happy
Where's
with
your
this.
faith, Nahum? Jehovah has cared for us up till now. He'll continue to do so.
Jehovah has cared for us up till now. You haven't starved to death ever. You've never starved to death, and that means that God is helping you not starve to death. And if you did die of starvation, that was just time and unforeseen circumstances. But don't worry about that. Just look at how bad everything is. Look at the circumstances in the world. Can you imagine things getting any worse? Things are worse than ever.
If nothing's happening back in
It
Jerusalem,
doesn't really matter when or how the end comes.
Oh.
What matters is that we're faithful to Jesus'
That's
command.
easy for you to say.
It doesn't, this is the key. It doesn't matter when or how the end comes. What matters is being faithful to Jesus' commands. His commands! Which I never got the sense, by the way, reading the Gospels, that Jesus was like commanding anything. It just seemed like more he was just like a teacher who was telling people what he thought and being nice, but they call it a command. Anyway, this is the important thing. If you're wondering how and why the end will come about,
Yes, I do.
you're worrying about the wrong thing. You're being a real Nahum.
Because your eyes
You're
are
worrying
on
about
the
those
past.
things that we keep hearing about.
Everything Jesus said about Jerusalem.
Don't ask questions. Don't think about this. Don't worry about it. Just stay the course. You haven't ever died, so that means that God is keeping you alive.
because we preach about a destruction that hasn't come. Because we ran away from our homes.
Preach about a destruction that hasn't come is what the bad guy says in the drama. The negative influence says that kind of thing.
We'll just be glad when all of this is behind us.
These are stressful times.
So a weird byproduct of having him be the guy that shaves is that his 5 o'clock shadow kind of indicates depression, like in the cliche way that movies do. But everybody else has beards, and they are the role models and the good guys. So it's kind of a strange choice. Nahum's hair is on fleek, though. I'm jealous. It looks great. Now, the Shebmeister, his hair is grosso, and I hate it. Who lays like that? Cry normal. The end. Well, that was a sad. Oh, back to grave time. 8 months later.
Nahum struggled to overcome.
When will the end come? When will the end of this movie come?
Too early. Gideon's out there making money, and we're here picking grapes.
As time wore on, there remained the burning question that Nahum just couldn't get past.
So tell me this:
Why hasn't the end come? Is the kind of thing a bad person who will be destroyed at Armageddon would say.
But I knew that if we kept focused on the more important things,
Focus on the more important things, like family worship evenings sponsored by Watchtower. Oh man, Urso, my favorite cat, is here to save me during the very boring stretch of this
life
movie.
back in Jerusalem was just the same as always, but the reality was quite different. Shortly after we left, the
Look at these
cold
fat
hand of
cats going at it.
plunged the city into a brutal and senseless civil war.
Oh no. Good for kids, I think. Blood. That's good. dead people, dagger in that one person's back. Oh, wow. Oh, Garfield always cheers me up.
Better than I can do. Our enemies are destroying one another with their own hands.
Cream of the crop. This was the best actor out of all the ones that they auditioned, and that's just something to remember. Rome 68 CE. Oh, we're getting close to that destruction, baby.
When a military coup.
Why even have knives in Rome? Because from what I can tell, if a knife is in the room, a person will unsheath it and stare at it menacingly and have the immediate desire to murder someone. 70, baby. This is where it all goes down, I think. If I know my history, and I don't.
Those chaotic events made walking by faith even
Is he just doing this for fun, do you think? The scales? Because I would. I think that actually seems like
more difficult.
Like I kind of want a scale now, so I can just sit and contemplate why the end hasn't come and play with my toys. What a sad beard boy. Name, more like, damn, that beard looks good on him.
Hey.
Chevy!
I've made up my mind.
The Shebmeister! Shebalaya ding dong.
Nahum, we have
So here's something that these movies, because Sheb, or whatever his name is just the biggest wet blanket. He's so boring. He's so dry and humorless. And this is how all of the main characters to all of these dramas are. Like in recent years, like the Hezekiah one, the Jonah one, and I can only assume this upcoming Daniel one. Like the main character is a wet blanket and just a real drag, and is super self-righteous about anything, and they are the good example. They are the example you're supposed to follow. And the people who are kind of funny and have personality tend to be the bad guys. And I don't think that they necessarily intend for that to be the case. Like, hey, the good guy can't have any fun. But I just think the idealized version of a Jehovah's Witness, when they get to control the narrative and craft the character, is somebody who like necessarily has to constantly be working incredibly hard, live a life of extreme poverty, be completely unquestioning to any direction he receives, and has to, stand up for his beliefs constantly to others. And that's kind of not somebody fun that you want to hang out with.
Why wouldn't Jehovah have mercy on Jerusalem, Shebuel? It's the home to the temple and to
Good
his
point.
people.
Maybe God,
That was a pagan city.
maybe God won't destroy the city.
And you know the Jews
He's
are no
forgetting
longer God's people.
that destroying cities is God's favorite thing to do, and he does it all the time.
First with the rout of Cestius Gallus, and now, with all the political confusion in Rome, Jerusalem's all but forgotten.
What makes you assume those events prove Jehovah's protection over Jerusalem when Jesus said it'll be destroyed?
Shebuel. Okay, let's assume that Jehovah still intends to destroy Jerusalem. We all thought that it was going to happen as soon as we left, but it didn't, did it?
This is very interesting.
No, we were wrong about that.
So when
this
will
is
it
what
happen?
they think apostates are like.
You know it's impossible to know the day or the hour.
No, it's impossible to know the day or the hour. How could you possibly call out an organization for saying that the world would end in 1914 and then backpedaling and say, oh no, it wasn't the world ended, it said Jesus came invisibly. And then that they later did the same thing in 1919, and they did the same thing in 1925 and in 1975, and they said it would happen by the end of the 20th century. You know, how could you possibly criticize a religious organization for giving specific incorrect doomsday predictions? That is like something that some kind of Nahum would do.
I don't know, Nahum.
You don't know Nahum, he's
but
sitting
you've
right
heard
there.
the reports about what's happening in Jerusalem. Factions fighting for control. Violence, bloodshed, anarchy.
Stories. Embellished and exaggerated with every telling.
This is interesting.
Every city has its problems.
This is interesting that he's like, look how bad things are. The violence, the bloodshed. And then the bad guy, Nahum, is like, it's not so bad. It's embellished.
And they go. Nothing
This is kind of weird because,
why can't we?
again, the first century Christians were expecting the end of the age, of the system of things, as witnesses like to put it. And that doesn't happen. It's not going to happen in the lifetime of any of the characters in this drama. And they would have taken those signs to mean that the end was near. And yet, the end was not near, and it would continue to not be near for thousands of years after their death, up until this day. So the character is wrong, generally, about the end of the system of things.
You could
what do I know?
find him. And that boy of yours? What kind of a life is this?
You know, it's good that they're keeping their son from playing music.
Our whole lives.
If he did that,
We've been through a lot together, and I have
he
always
might...
been honest with you, Nahum. Now I'm telling you, you're wrong.
How can you know that?
I'm willing to die for you. But I will not throw away my life by going back to Jerusalem.
Interesting.
Throw away your life?
Very interesting. I'm willing to die for you, but I'm not willing to throw away my life.
You can't see the blessings right in front of your
I think that's something that,
going
like,
today.
people like myself, whose parents are still witnesses, I have a lot of family that are witnesses, they're like, we love you, we would die for you. We won't talk to you, though. We are going to shun you. But, yeah, we love you a lot. Now, this is all reinforced through these films. This is so boring. It's so oppressively sad. It's the same point being made over and over and over again. And this is kind of... Oh, he got a text.
Let me have it, please. Here, you do it.
I'm just a woman. I can't open a string. Jesus Christ.
My dear
Oh.
sister, I am sorry it took so long to reply to your letters, but the situation in Jerusalem
is desperate.
Oh, our boy. Our donkey-loving boy who stayed behind. But yeah, the fact that there's so much repetition of the same, like, very obvious point that they're trying to make is not an accident. This is part of the point of propaganda. It is going into it, having a clear conclusion that you want your audience to draw, which is everything, but constantly reiterating that point at the exclusion of all other viewpoints and demonizing the other side of the argument while you do it, and not taking what they say in good faith. What these guys are saying is painted in this drama as purely selfish and haughty and impatient, that if only they would have trusted God more, they wouldn't be in this position where they're listening to sad violin music while something happens. But in reality, the things that these characters are saying are good points. They're saying, yeah, you said that the destruction would come right after we left, and it didn't, and it's been a few years, so maybe we should take a look at this. And, the wife is saying, hey, your son's really talented with music. Maybe he could, get some lessons and really pursue that. And these are not wild, crazy things to say, but they are presented through the, music, through the performances. It's presented as if, oh my God, food fight! It's presented as this insane position, and of course, they're going to be destroyed. Oh my God! This is too scary for kids. Oh, he sliced him.
Priest and worshiper alike.
Why is this like a overcranked film from the 1920s? Is he peeing?
Sprinkling the altar.
Whoa, you don't gotta shake that hard, buddy. The blood smear, good God. Like, the fact that there's a blood smear and a rat, first of all, anything with a rat is too scary for kids. Don't let your children see Ratatouille. It's too scary.
Out of the jealousy of the political factions.
Yeah. They are really belaboring this point. Like, they really want you to wallow in the sadness and destruction and the when really we could just be listening to this guy's bangers out there.
Say that the Roman army is burning.
Now, what's the person on top of that doing?
Killing its way back to Jerusalem. By now, they are only a few days away.
A few days away? How much longer is there in this freaking thing? Hey! Canadian A, not Fonzie A! What are we even doing? This is so boring. It's, you know, like, they know they can't really get graphic because then they would be accused of hypocrisy, which they have been in recent years and have had to address it several times on the broadcast now, that, hey, you know, these are kind of upsetting for children. It's not normal for kids to watch stuff like that with this guy's blood pooling down the side of a wall. Jesus Christ. But they can't be too graphic, but they also know that, like, the Bible is very violent and bloody. But not the New Testament so much, actually. It's kind of funny that they chose to make this part so violent. Because with the Old Testament stuff, they can kind of justify it because it's there in the text. But you don't ever hear about this kind of slaughter in the New Testament. Unless I missed it. Oh, not the jar from the beginning of the movie that signified something. Now, why'd they have to go and kill all those guys? God's name. Oh my God, there's fucking drool coming out of his mouth, and the key which signified something symbolic. Oh, and the fire. It's so real. It's like a real matte painting is on fire. The end. What the... And,
looking back on those events fills me with both joy and sadness.
All right, let's let this
joy
play out, and then I'll yell.
Because we made the right decision. But sadness when I think of the consequences when material things become the motivating force behind decisions.
Materialism, the motivating force behind decisions.
Now more than ever, I realize that true Christianity
yes, it's there
requires strong faith.
In the film, but I actually don't think that you necessarily get materialism as the main thing from this. I think you get the sense that it's questioning anything. It's leaving for any reason. And the second you leave, that's going to be the minute that prophecy is fulfilled. I've been busy not practicing the flute, Dad.
We don't have
his
all
dad
the things
made
we
him a
had in
flute.
Jerusalem.
Oh, he's not going to give it to him. He's going to set it up there. What?
But what's really important is that my family and I remained loyal.
What's important is that they remained loyal to Jehovah and survived the last days of Jerusalem. Okay, interesting.
I don't know what the future holds, but
We
we're
don't know what the
determined,
future holds.
come what
We're
may,
determined, come what may.
to keep walking by
Walking by faith. Okay, so what I do know what is in store for you because this is history now, and what's in store for you is nothing, and or you get killed for being a Christian. You know, the way that Daya is going to live out the rest of his days, he's going to continue being in Pella, this place that they don't like and doesn't make him happy and is worse than where they were before. And yes, they didn't go back and die in Jerusalem, but they are going to die eventually, living a sad, poor life, having not pursued their dreams, having forced their child not to pursue his dreams, and the end will not come in their lifetime. But what matters is none of that. What matters is remaining loyal to Jehovah, because they're first century Christians, which probably means they'll get to go to heaven. And Lord knows you get to play music in heaven, literally constantly singing praise. Sounds tiring, but I mean, it's heaven. It must be awesome. So yes, I think that not a lot more needs to be said. It's very manipulative. It's actually, I was a little surprised, this being from 2012, the quality is like not notably worse than the modern day dramas. It's about the same. The CGI budget is bigger on these newer ones. This drama was specifically brought up to me by my believing family members when I told them that I was leaving. They're like, you got to think about that walk by faith, not by sight drama. You know, these dramas kind of become sacred texts to witnesses. You know, they'll say, remember the wife of Lot. Well, there's a remember the wife of Lot, which is the title of the drama. You know, think about the Young People Ask drama, where that kid, he wanted to be in the sports, but instead he was nice to an old guy and he was happy instead. I don't know. That was a bad example because I don't remember that one either. But I think the point stands. These dramas, which in this case is just made up. These aren't characters in the Bible as far as I remember. It's made up, but it's treated as a proof text. It's treated with the same weight that a scripture is treated in some ways. So they get quoted with the same level of severity as one might quote a scripture. And I think that that's significant, even though it's a poorly acted, you know, low budget movie made by some weirdos in New York and Canada. It means a lot to witnesses, and they really stick in your brain. So I hope you enjoyed that, or I hope you weren't too triggered by it. We never did think of a good name for the donkey. Submit your name suggestions in the comments. The winner will be shouted out in the next video. How about that? I will shout out the best donkey name in the next video, and we'll go from there. But thank you. Like and subscribe and all that business. There's a Patreon if you want. And if not, who cares? I don't care. We just watched a whole movie about why materialism is bad. Don't support Patreon. That's materialism. I got lost in the bit, and I don't know what level of irony I'm going for anymore. So, goodbye.